So, guys, before we record, I hear our guest say, I don't know how you usually start these. And I was thinking, let's mess with them, you know? It's usually like a barbershop trio, and we all harmonize, and,
Me, 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 me,
and then we got
me.
to get him to come in as the quartet. Just
I
see if
love
he'll
it.
play
Go
along.
ahead, Nick. Start us off. You have a good
Welcome
voice.
to the show. Chris Chris Huffman from what is it? Huffman Precision Machining? Is
Huffman
that
Ma
it?
Huffman Machining Solutions,
Okay, not even
LLC.
close. Huffman Machining Solutions, LLC.
It
Sorry about
it's
that.
it's a mouthful, and I'll explain how I come to that name, here in a minute.
Okay, cool. Just taking a shot in the dark here. Might have something to do with your last name?
How did you know? I
We're
mean, that's ho
Nick's the smart one of the
Yeah.
group.
Right.
Woo!
I was totally thrown off, but thank you for clarifying that,
Yeah.
Nick.
No, okay, like, apparently there's a story behind it, so let's hear it, Chris.
So we're doing our Gen CNC Young Shop Founder series. Chris is a young shop founder with a great last name and a great name of his business. And Chris, we want to know about how you got into the machining world, why you decided to start your shop, and your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for having me on. This is a huge thing that you all are doing for us young guys and gals. I've listened to a few of the ones you've done so far, and it's always interesting to hear how people got started in this. And some people got started in it because, oh, well, my dad did it or my grandpa did it. And some did it because, well, they had a need for something done. They couldn't get somebody to do it. So they just decided, who else better to do it than myself? Just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I'm 26. I started this business in 2022. I was 21 at the time. I started on 2/22/22, so we're coming up on 4 years within the next, I don't know, week or so. The name of the business is kind of an interesting play because people will tell you don't name your business with your name in it because it doesn't bode well if you have to sell the business or something happens. You don't want to be tied to it. But this is me. I mean, the business is me, and everything about it is me and my personality. If you are watching this, you can kind of see in the background. It's this is me. So when I was going to find a name, like what do we call this? So my mom and myself sat down and we started looking, and I wanted to call it machine and tool, but everybody calls their machine shops machine and tool. So I thought, okay, let's do machine and engineering. Well, in the state of North Carolina, you can't put engineering in your company name unless you have a certified engineer in the company, because I guess
Hmm,
they assume you're going to be doing engineering work on
Hmm,
bridges and structures and whatnot. So um, I just
fascinating.
kind of thought, what about the name solution? Because in the name it says who I am, what I do, and how I do it. My name is last name's Huffman. Uh, I do machining and I provide you a solution. So it kind of sums it up. It's a
I
mouthful,
like it.
but you can just knock off the solutions part. You have a nice catchy username. It didn't occur to me at the time, but when you abbreviate it HMS, it's the same abbreviation for Hendrick Motorsports. So if you Google
There you go.
HMS, you can get like so many different responses for that. But it also gives the ability in the future, I can keep the same acronym if I want to change to say manufacturing solutions. So if I get into fab or injection molding or something like that, and I don't have to change my logos or anything. So that's kind of how the
I
name
like
came
it.
about. Probably way more than what anybody else would do, but I mean, I obsess over small details, so that's just kinda who I am.
That's a good quality in a machine shop is the small details. So you were
Yeah, and
21 when you started the shop. Is that right?
yeah, so I kind of started in 2020 doing stuff for people during COVID. I had just graduated from university, there wasn't really any job prospects out there, and we'll get into this a little bit more as I talk about my education, but I always kinda wanted to do this when I got into machining in the first place. It was, I would like to have a machine in my garage and just play with it. I like trains. I'm going to put that out there, and we'll come back around that. But you'll hear that come up a lot in this conversation. And I just wanted to make some cool model train parts in my garage. The way things worked out, it didn't quite go that way. And I decided, well, if I'm going to start a business, I want to do it right. And I had some friends of mine that were in the railroad steam preservation industry, and they asked me if I would do some parts for them, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can, but I don't have any equipment to do it." So I would design it up and maybe send it out for manufacture, and it would always come back wrong, or there'd be some little small defect in it. And I'm just like, if I'm going to do this again, I want to control that ability. So that's kind of how this got started. I plan to do more design and product development. It's kind of turned more into just job shop machining, which I'm fine with. It's a good stable income to have, as you all know, but it can be a very wild ride doing the job shop thing. So I mentioned earlier that I have a crippling love of trains, specifically steam locomotives, and that came from my childhood, I guess. I have no family connections to any sort of railroad. I have a family of mechanics and agricultural and farmers, so I don't really know where it came from. But if you ask my mom, she'll tell you it came from Thomas the Train, the TV show with the talking trains and the faces and all
Mhm.
that. It for whatever reason that stuff just clicked with me, and when I was really young, probably 2 or 3 years old, there's a theme park about 45 minutes away from me called Tweetsie Railroad. And they had this Day Out with Thomas event where they had a life size replica of Thomas, and you could go ride behind Thomas. And it's like for a little kid, it's the perfect event to get the mom and dad and the grandparents together. And it's kind of funny because in a way, Thomas is seen as this, children's thing, but it actually brings a lot of income to these tourist roads, and it's a little bit different with Tweetsie because it's a theme park. But that led into regular visits to Tweetsie as a regular patron, and then you get to thinking, well, these trains are real trains. They're not replicas or reproductions. They actually did work. And as I got a little bit older and understood more, I got interested in history and was able to tie back one of the locomotives at Tweetsie to the area that I live in. It ran on a little railroad that went from Tennessee over the state line into North Carolina to haul iron ore. And, there were four of them built. It's the only one in existence. It's over 100 years old at this point. And I'm like, man, this is some cool stuff. Not only is it cool because it's an old machine, but it has a tie to our area. So, you know, elementary school, 4th, 5th grade, I would bring this up to the friend group and teachers in school, and they would go, "This is stupid. You're crazy. Like, why do you have any interest in this?" And it's like, Come on, this is cool. I mean, you might have a personal family tie to this and not even know it." So I was outcast a lot as a kid for that. But as I got through middle school, I kind of found, I like the mechanical things. I like all that. When I got into early college, I didn't go to high school, so that's probably the first thing. I was able to get my 2-year community college degree in it's called applied engineering, but it included machining and drafting for free. I had it by the time I was 18 when I graduated. It was definitely interesting to see that people don't really care about what you care in. So then you go out and find the people that do. And that's where I got into social media. I started meeting people all over the country. I've got friends and contacts in every state, just about all over, in a couple in Europe and the UK. I've got a few in Australia that I talk to on a regular basis, and it's all around this one concept of we like old historic trains. And you would
Mhm.
never think that there would be an interest in that, but there is.
Man, I thought I was gonna never meet another one of us.
Oh, okay.
No, that's really cool, man. You found a niche
Yeah, it's
community.
I love how people can find communities online. What is up, Metalworking Nation, Making Chips family? It is an even year, which means IMTS is coming. September 14th through 19th at McCormick Place in beautiful Chicago. It is the largest manufacturing trade show in North America, bringing together thousands of manufacturers, OEMs, and solution providers every 2 years to explore how new technologies are being applied to real shop floors. So, whether you're planning future capital investments, benchmarking operations, or simply trying to cut through the noise around emerging technologies, IMTS is designed to help manufacturers make better, more informed decisions. Whether you've been going for years or this might be your first time, put it on your calendar right now. Schedule your time away from the shop. It's good to get out and see new things. It's going to be a big party. I hope to see you there. Go to imts.com and register today.
It's a very niche community, and as I've gotten older, those people that made fun of me have come back and go, it's really cool, this sort of stuff, because they have kids now, and
Mhm.
they end up going to the same places that I went to, and their kids love it. So it's kinda like, "Oh, this is a little bit of karma for some of these people," but a couple of them have come to me and been like, "Hey, where do you recommend I take my kid?" And I'm like, "You can go to these places, they're around here, or if you're going to this place, go to this place, talk to this guy, they can give you something." And they're like, "How do you know all this?" Just like, "This has been my life for the last 26 years." So,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know people in low places. That's usually what I say.
So what in that triggered you to start a shop?
Well, let me talk about some of my education, and then we'll get into that. So,
Okay.
I wanted to go to work for one of these tourist railroads as a machinist. There's nothing computerized about a steam locomotive. It is, as someone put it, it is the closest thing to a living machine that human has created. They are moody, they tear themselves apart, and the only way to fix them is by welding and machining new parts. And in order for a tourist railroad to be sustainable, they have to have some of that capability in house. So there's most notable tourist railroad I would say would be the Durango and Silverton. It's out in Durango, Colorado. If you're ever in that area, I highly recommend you go for a ride. They have some amazing equipment that doesn't exist anymore. Like, this would have been things that every small railroad town that had a maintenance facility would have had, and it all got scrapped in the 1950s because it wasn't needed anymore. We had diesel locomotives at the time. And my goal was to go work for a place like that. I had interest in going to Tweetsie at one point. They had some management. And we didn't really see eye to eye, so I started looking elsewhere. I had a friend that had started working with a contract company who it let's say, for instance, you wanted to restore a steam locomotive, you don't know where to start, you could hire an individual or a contract company to come in and do the work for you. Very expensive to do, but, he got me in. I went up there to Cumberland, Maryland, to the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad and volunteered on their locomotive that they were restoring in 2019. So I got to do some very good manual machining and all that, but I wanted to go work for a tourist road, so that's why I got into machining in the first place. But an interesting thing happened. I got into machining and realized that I like machining almost, if not better than I like the trains. There's something really satisfying about taking a raw piece of steel, aluminum, or whatever, and turning it into a part that can hold thousandths, or even smaller than that in tolerance. And just like with the train stuff, you think, "Oh, man, it's like I found this I've seen through the matrix now. I wanna tell everybody about this," and, they don't care. They don't care about where the stuff comes from. They don't really care about how it got to them. All they care about is what it can do for them. So, part of what I've done over the last couple of years is educate people in this area that I live in, where the manufacturing is, what we do, all this sort of stuff, and it's been hard. I live in a very rural area. There is manufacturing, but it takes a couple different flavors. Lots of fabricating and welding, not so much machining. But it's starting to become Western North Carolina is starting to become a very big hub for manufacturing. There's several aerospace engine manufacturers that have opened up in Western North Carolina. Um, but even in it, it's still been a difficult process. Back to the shop. A couple of those people that I met when I was at Western Maryland, because everybody works with one another, They are belong to different organizations, and they go, "Well, could you machine this for us?" "Yeah, I don't own any equipment. I can't help you." Well, do you know somebody that does?" "Well, maybe these people over here could." And there was just so many requests for it. I'm like, I have an opportunity here to do something. So that's when I thought, okay, if I want to do this, I want to do it right. So 2022, I started the business, bought my first piece of machinery that year. And at this point, I'm up to 3 machines, 2 lathes, and a mill. And I would like to say that the train stuff is all that I do, uh, especially 2025. That's been the majority of what I've done. But I do regular contract manufacturing for people as well, construction, agriculture, uh, theme parks, funny enough, those sorts of industries. And I'm trying to grow into that side of it a little bit more because even though I like doing the train stuff, because it's so niche, there's only so much growth you can have in it because believe it or not, there are other people who do just there are other people out there that do the same exact thing I do. They make the same exact parts. They just may be in a slightly different part of the country. That's it. So my growth plans for that are to get more job shop work, get in a little bit more product based stuff. But I still like the trains, but I don't really have time for them anymore. It's kind of sad, but it'll always be a part of me, and it'll be a part of my business going forward as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, wow. So you never would have thought, like, trains would be the entry point.
Yeah, I just dumped 26 years and stuff in the last 15 minutes talking to you guys. I barely know the three of you, and it's like, man, this guy is either crazy or really passionate. Either one, we can't tell.
This guy loves trains and loves machining. That's the summary
Oh
so
yeah.
far. So, how did that go, like, talk walk us through, like, "Hey, I'm gonna launch my own company here," and the risk you took and how you financed it all and kinda that entrepreneurial leap across the train tracks, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good tie-in,
yeah.
Nick.
That's
Nice tie-in. Very good.
honestly, at the time I was working another job. So outside of the machining, outside of the train stuff, I actually worked in community college. So I worked for my local community college, the same one that I went to school at. I went there in 2020 because they had let go one of their instructors in the applied engineering and machining program. I stepped into that role, and that's really kind of where I got the idea of, I would really like to have some of this on my own, even though I could have walked into the shop at any point in time, made any part that I wanted to, but I wasn't allowed to sell it. I had to either give it away or donate it as part of that because when you work for an organization that has state-owned equipment, you can't make money from off of the state-owned equipment. That would be double dipping. I worked in that role for up until August of last year is when I finally quit to do this full time. But that is the job from the community college really allowed me to do this because one, it allowed me to talk to people. Before that, I couldn't. If I hadn't have worked in the community college before, we couldn't have this conversation because I couldn't get the words out. I would be looking at you like a brick wall. The second thing that did for me is it gave me a stable source of income. So I had I didn't make a whole lot of money, but I did make, a decent amount for my age and my skill set. And I was able to take that money and roll it into my business. I don't have much overhead. I live on my family's property, so I don't have any mortgage or rent or anything that I have to pay. Uh, I didn't really have any other expenses like student loan debt because I got the community college done through the early college, and then the Western Carolina universities where I got my bachelor's degree, and I was able to fund that through mostly scholarships and some other grants that they had at the time. So I had very low overhead, and that allowed me to start the business. I had saved up probably 30 to 50,000. I don't remember exactly how much I had off the top of my head. I had a pretty extensive model train collection, and I sold most of it to free up capital to buy micrometers and tool holders and end mills and whatnot because I was committed. I wanted to do it. So if anybody out there is listening and they want to start a shop, your first instinct might be to try to have as little overhead as possible, and it's a very good thing to have, especially with an uncertain economy. But I know people out there who will spend 40, $50,000 buying themselves a machine and then put 20 grand on a credit card to buy their tooling and stuff because they didn't account for that.
Mhm.
I ended up getting a loan through a local bank to buy my first machine, which is a Mazak Quick Turn 250 MS live tooling, subspindle lathe with a bar feeder. uh, I ended up doing that, and my mom had some business connections. She got me put in touch with a banker who was able to sort of grease the wheels, and I used my income from the community college as well as my first couple POs to bind together for them to let me buy the machine, and that's how I got started. So I would not sink 40 or $50,000 into an asset and then put a bunch of money on a credit card. I would rather keep my cash and then finance the piece of capital equipment. There is complications with that because obviously if you finance a piece of capital equipment, you have to insure it. And that was nothing else that I encountered when I started the business was harder than getting insurance. Um, it was
Really?
Hmm.
you would go somewhere and they would just no quote you. And part of it was I was going to the local insurance companies who didn't know what a machine shop was, and they said that it
Mm.
was either too risky or they wanted 10 grand a year for $50,000 of income. And
Oh,
eventually, I
jeez.
yeah.
And you're like, "That's too risky."
Well, it was because I put on the application, like, I did stuff in rail, and just like if you put on there that I do aerospace work for Boeing, it sends these alarm bells off in their office because they think that you're gonna be making brake valves, and when the
Mm,
train crashes, they're gonna find it, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be a liability on you. So I understand it,
Sure.
but making them understand what I did was good, and I finally found an insurance company that would work with me. Got something a little bit more reasonable than 10 grand a year, and I've been with them ever since. The other problem too, alongside that was where I live at, there is no industrial spaces to rent. If you're out near Statesville, Morrisville, Charlotte area, which is down lower in the state, you can go out and find a 2,000 square foot unit in an industrial park, no problem. Three-phase power, ready, everything. That didn't exist here. And it hasn't existed here for the time that I've been here. Um, so what I ended up doing was there was a series of little garages, I guess you could say, and I got in touch with the woman who owned them all, and we put together a deal. I was able to rent one out, but it didn't have three-phase power, so I had to put that in. That was an expense that well, we kinda shared it. I shared it with the landlord. She paid for half, I paid for half to get it going. There was problems with the machine that I had purchased because I kinda bought it sight unseen, but I was relying on the resale company to provide me with the right information. They had a technician go out and inspect it, and they're like, yeah, it's good, but it's got this one little issue, and this was 2022, of course, so getting machines new was, I
Mhm.
was getting quotes on new machines, and they were quoting me a year out. I'm like, "I can't
mhm.
do that."
I
And
remember that.
used machines were selling for as much as the new ones, so when this one came around, because I needed a live tooling and I needed the sub spindle for the type of work that I was going to do, I'm like, "Well, I kinda have to take it. Maybe I can fix what's wrong with it." So, it took a while to fix the issues with the machine and get the power up and going, but once I got all that sorted out, um, the machine has done good for me ever since. I mean, 20 years old now, it still holds a couple tenths tolerance, so, the only reason I would get rid of it is to replace it with something new. Um, the problem that I had with the machine was the sub spindle was bad, and they were telling me, "Oh, it'll be like 2 grand to fix." I'm like, "Okay, that doesn't sound bad," and it ended up costing $15,000 to rebuild because it's a
Yes,
Mazak. It's a Mazak. They have integral spindle motors, so they had to
They're
put
all that
bearings in
much.
it. Yeah, they had to put bearings in it. They had to rewind it, but they did a tremendous job. The company that I had do it did a tremendous job. So if you're thinking about buying a used piece of equipment like that, just know that one, go look at it yourself. Two, if you can't, go send somebody that knows what they're doing to look at it because even if you go look at it yourself. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're just looking at something, and you have to take the emotion out of it. And sometimes it's better to let somebody know who knows the equipment, who knows those machines, to do those inspections, and then they can give you a report on how that should look and what a fair offer is on it. Uh, it's paid for itself now. It continues to run parts, so I'll probably keep it until it falls apart. I'm kind of sentimental to it because not only did I learn how to machine on it, I never run a CNC lathe before until I had this one. That's how much of a risk I
Mm,
took. I was always a mill guy at the shops that I worked at before, but it also taught me how to fix the machine. So how to take the panels off and the way covers back and inspect and replace lube lines and realign spindles and take taper cuts and level a machine. I learned how to essentially set up and run a machine from this one. So it's kind of sentimental in that way, but it also
it's a
makes
good
me beat my
lesson.
head
Yeah.
through the it makes me beat my head through a wall at least twice, once a month now. Um, it's a Mazak,
And what
so
year?
the biggest it's 2005, so it's just now 20 years
Okay.
old. Um, the biggest, I won't say disappointment with it, but I found out after I got it that I couldn't put a G code program on the machine. It is only programmable through Mazatrol, and it was gonna be
Mm.
like $6,000 to have them turn it on. I'm like, "I will
What?
learn
Mm.
Mazatrol. I will learn Mazatrol before I spend $6,000, and I will tell you this, if you're interested in buying a Mazak lathe, make sure that the options are turned on it before you buy it, but aside from that, I can just about beat anybody programming two-axis lathe work. By the time you set up your G71 cycles and you put the program in the machine or draw it in CAD, I've already got it programmed, set up, running. That's that's how efficient it is. And for some things it works great, for some things it's terrible at. But for those that know conversational programming, when they listen to this, they'll know what I'm talking about. So that's that. 2023, I added a Haas VF2SS. I found it from a guy. This time I went and looked at the machine myself. I bought it directly from the guy, so I wasn't buying it through a resale person. It's been a pretty good machine. 24, I bought a little Akuma two-axis lathe, which I've since sent down the road. It really wasn't getting used because I didn't really have the work for it, because either the work that I was doing required 2 ops, so it made more sense to do it in the sub-spindle machine, or it was too big to go in this little 8-inch chuck lathe. And then last year, I bought a, very similar to the one that Mr. Payne has at Hill, a Wachion High-Tech. Let me look at it to make sure I get this right. 230 BL YSMC. So live tooling, sub-spindle. The difference is that it has Y-axis, so it's been very interesting to learn that machine and be able to consolidate operations, because some of the parts that I've been doing in the last year, I might do 2 ops in the lathe and then do 4 ops in the mill to put side holes in or clock it at some funky angle and putting it in there, 2 ops and you're done. I mean, and yes, the machine costs a lot more, but I'm able to get more throughput for it. And for one guy who only has a few part-time helpers, more throughput is what I'm looking for. I don't necessarily need 10 machines to get the throughput I need. I just need to be able to combine as many operations into one as possible. Very expensive machine. Uh, it's on the lower end of what a Y-axis subspindle lathe costs, especially these days. But it's been, for the most part, it's been very good to have. So these 3 machines are probably what I'm sticking with for now until I get some of my other debts paid off. But I would like to have a slightly bigger mill, like 50 by 26 travels, and then a larger lathe to do some shaft type work and stuff. Um, there's a lot of industry outside of machining and manufacturing in this area. One of the most interesting is mining, and that's an industry that I'm slowly getting into. But it's not mining like coal mining; it's mining for precious minerals. So there's 2 mines in the county just below me that produce this very special silica powder almost that's used to make microchips. And basically every electronic device in this world functions because of those 2 mines. it's kind of interesting when you look into it. Again,
Hmm.
with the random facts for today. You're just getting all sorts of education today, aren't you?
Hey, everybody. You know everyone's pushing AI into quoting right now. And look, AI can be powerful, but in manufacturing, it can also be risky. If you don't know where your RFQs are going, who can access them, or how your data is being handled, that's a serious problem. And that's where we talk about secure AI. And that's where Paperless Parts stands out. Paperless Parts is built specifically for manufacturers. Their CMMC compliant platform uses secure AI to take the busy work off of your estimators, organizing RFQ packages, surfacing key details, and centralizing your entire quoting workflow so your team can focus on actually estimating. And when they say secure, they mean it. They maintain rigorous security standards, including a FedRAMP moderate equivalent security posture verified by a third party assessment organization. It's built for shops preparing for CMMC Level 2. If you want the speed of AI without the risk, go to paperlessparts.com. That's paperlessparts.com. Quoting made simple, profitable, and powerful.
Well, for me, that ties right back to the whole ThankAMachinist thing, right? Because you need you need the stuff out of those mines, but you need machines to mine it to get the stuff out to turn it into
Yeah.
everything else in the world. So that's pretty cool.
It's definitely like seeing through the matrix. For anybody out there that's just now getting into it, you can't look at any product and not think about how was that made. I mean, I will get
Mm-hmm.
a $300 model train, for instance. Most model trains are made in China. Uh, Part of the reason why they say they're made in China is because that's where all the knowledge for the advanced injection molding is required for some of these things, and some of these model trains are super detailed for what they are. But it always fascinates me because I'll take one apart and I can see where their parting lines are for the molds. I can see where they decided to polish and clean the mold and where they didn't. I've even pulled apart some and on the inside see the cutter marks from the end mill that made the negative of the mold that they didn't polish out. And I'm like, look, there's machining, there's what we do. And it still baffles some people when I tell them what we do. And I guess it's just, most people just don't think about it, and that's fine. That's why we make the money we do. But we also need to educate more people about what we do, get more people interested in it, and that's part of the reason why when I was in the community college, I spent a lot of time going out and talking to, we were getting kids interested as early as seventh grade. They were more interested in things like the 3D printing because they'd see it on TikTok. But to know 3D printing, you have to know 3D design. Well, if
Mm-hmm.
you knew 3D design, you can do a whole bunch of different things. So I really would, I continue to educate people. Like I'll have somebody who comes in, maybe not off the street, but somebody that my mom or my dad met, and they're like, "Yeah, my son has this machine shop, and he makes these cool parts for these trains or these construction equipment companies and whatnot." And they're like, He's doing it here. How is he doing it here? That's not heard of. Nobody does anything around here like that." Like, well, maybe we need to change that. So, as far as my future outlook, I already said looking at some bigger machines to do bigger work with. I had somebody stop by earlier today who was a former student who I'm looking at hiring full time. He's really good at manual machining and stuff, but I think we can get him antiquated into the CNC stuff, teach him some of the quality control things, and get him up to speed on that. Um, Trying to help them with apprenticeships. The community college I came from, they want to start doing apprenticeships in machining, so that's something else that I really want to be a part of. Um, and the next step is to, I don't know if it will happen this year or not. I would like for it to happen, but is to move and get an actual dedicated space that's mine. I have no problem renting a space, but the space I'm in, it's starting to get cramped. We'll put it that way. I'm also hitting the limits because I don't think this floor is anywhere near 4 inches thick. If I have any sort of bar whip in one of the lathes, I can feel it on the other side of the shop in the floor. I'm like, this is not good. expecting to come in one day and find a crack under one of the machines, but that hasn't happened yet. Knock on wood. That's kind of me in a nutshell. I mean, I'm sure there's more we can talk about if you have any more specific questions about one particular topic.
No, what I'm thinking about is when you said, like, how to get people into the business, and for you, it was just, like, your love of trains, and even from a young age, like, and then it was, "Oh, how are all these parts made?" And it takes a certain type of machinist to make all these spare parts to keep the trains running, and so that's kinda, like,
Mhm.
the big takeaway I have in my head, but getting back to the business, you said just a minute ago, thinking about hiring somebody full time. Is it just you now, or what's the team look like right now if it's beyond you?
Right now, it's just me as the full the because you have to think about it. Even though I've had the business for 4 years, I've only really been at it for 8 months because that's when I quit this to do this full time. And I have to keep reminding myself that because I'm thinking, man, I should be a lot farther along than I am at 4 years when I see other people. But the fact is that I haven't been doing it for 4 years. I've been doing it for like 2.5 when you consider the fact that I only did it during the summer and nights and
Mhm.
weekends for 3.5 years, basically.
Yeah.
In 24, I had a former student who kinda helped me out during the summer. He was good, and I think he enjoyed being up here, but he was driving almost an hour to come to me because the school
Mm.
where I taught at was an hour from where I am at, so, that was another reason that I decided to leave was I was losing 2 hours a day commuting, which is not fun, especially when the
Mhm.
price of diesel is almost $4 a gallon. The summer of '25, I had an individual come in who, again, was a former student, and he just kinda stayed around. He worked the summer, wanted to come in and help out a little bit more in the fall, so he'd come in and help me, like, for 4 hours on a Friday evening before he went home, and then in January, he's like, you know, I don't really have anything going on, I've only got 1 or 2 classes, can I come help you again?" I said, "Sure." So I pay him to come in here, he helps me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he likes doing this sort of stuff. Kinda like me, he got into this. His dad is a fabricator who used to work in NASCAR, which is interesting, so he's been around it his whole life. He actually just got a job at a company in Asheville that makes race car parts. That's what he wanted to do, and I'm like, "Is there any way I could talk you into maybe staying?" He's like, "Nope, I had this planned out before," and he's like, "I'm gonna go do it," and I said, "Well, I fully support you, and I want you to go do good things." Because in his case, he has the ambition and the skill set to do good things. He just got to keep his mind focused. And I said, you never know. One day you might be buying me out. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
That's
With
cool.
that being said, it is interesting to see because, like I said, you don't see the manufacturing until you know about where it's at. Uh, I would have never known that there was two aerospace manufacturing facilities for GE in Western North Carolina. One is about an hour and a half north of me, and one's an hour and a half south of me. And they make everything from rotating components to uh, I don't know exactly what their particular composition is, but the fan blades that go in like the CFM LEAP engines, they make those in Asheville. And in the plant in West Jefferson, they make rotating components that go in the 9X and some of the other aerospace engines that CFM and GE produce. And you wouldn't think that it would be in this little quaint mountain town in North Carolina, but there it is. It's very, very interesting when you start looking to see who's around and what people do, and like I said, getting people educated on what it is we do and the fact that we're not just generators for tax revenue, and we're not just here to supply this, that, and the other. We actually want to make a difference and give people livings and that sort of thing. That's what I want to try to do. But it takes a lot to do that. I was talking with an individual. His name is Jeremy Coffee. He owns Coffee Machining Group. They specialize in doing lots of high volume Swiss machining, which is fascinating in itself. But I was telling him a couple weeks ago, it's like, I'm ready to hire somebody, but I'm scared to. And he's like, "Why are you scared?" And I said, if all this ends on me today, I just sell the equipment and get out of it and go work for somebody else, and I have a nice, comfortable living. If I have people working for me and the bottom falls out of this, then I feel like I've let them down. I don't want to be in that position. So I got to make sure that the bones and the foundation of this are good enough to support not just me, but you know, a couple extra guys and their families and their girlfriends and kids when they get them. And that's a lot to think about. And most entrepreneurs, when they're just doing it themselves, that never crosses their mind. But when you start hiring people, it's something you have to think about. And it's like, well, can
Mhm.
I really do this? Is this something that I can really do to provide a living for people? So,
You're the second one of these young founders who said something like that, Chris. We
Yeah.
heard that from I
wow.
think it was the last episode. It was like they were like, "Yeah, I mean, it was similar." It was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I mean, it's a burden you're blessed to have,
yeah."
right? I mean,
hmm
but it has to be front of mind.
Hey, it's Paul from Making Chips. If you've been burned by recruiters who don't understand manufacturing, you are not alone. That's exactly why we created Hire MFG Leaders. We're not just recruiters, we're current and former shop owners, and we know what it takes to lead in this industry. Whether you're hiring your next operations leader, sales manager, or production supervisor, we'll help you find someone who actually fits. Learn more at makingchips.com/hire.
Chris, along that lines, I mean, I'm curious. We've got kind of your manufacturing background, but how's the journey been towards like running a business? I mean, the sales, the marketing, the accounting, the like how where do you feel you're at and where are you learning and those types of things?
I am learning the business side of business. That's the way I'll put it. I have no business degree or anything like that. When I was in university, I took a lot of classes that were focused around supervisory type roles. So, managing people, creating processes. So, I knew a little bit about that coming into it. Obviously, I worked for a couple different shops before. So, I knew things like lean and I haven't been through an ISO audit or anything like that, but I know the background behind that, having job travelers, that sort of thing, having, you know, good quality control and being able to document that even though some of the places I work for that was not in the top of where they should have been. That was make the part, put it on the shelf, and they'll take care of it. That was some of them's philosophy. So I'm learning things like how do I schedule things out accordingly? I said early on that I kind of keep things very tight, and sometimes that bites me. Like it's bit me in the last couple of weeks because something comes up, and all of a sudden this really tight schedule that you planned out is now pushed back greatly. So I'm trying to learn how do I schedule things out accordingly. It's harder to do that when you do 10 of something and you never see it again. If you're doing repeat work, it's a lot easier to do that. I'm also learning a lot about marketing, and what I found is uh, I understand why marketing is a degree in college because a lot of people out there they're so focused on making parts or doing whatever they do in their business they completely forget about the fact that they have to go out and continue to get business. So I'm learning about ways to do that. Some of it will be knocking on doors. Um, I've started to get tool reps come in here, because obviously I'm trying to buy cutting tools to do certain things and I need help with it. But I also let them kind of give the word out, like some free word of mouth marketing. I haven't ever paid for an ad, especially with the train stuff. A lot of that's word of mouth, but I've sponsored some people's, Facebook pages to get a shout out or something like that. The biggest thing that I see being a problem for me in the long term is I wouldn't necessarily say it's how do I put this? Is being able to maintain quality control because something that I want to do if I get a new facility and I'm able to start kind of from ground up again, is be able to go after like ISO 9001 or I guess IA 9100 as it's called now. Yes, I watched your video that you all put together on that back whenever it was in January. That is something I wanna do. It's not in the cars for the next 3 years, but in 4 years, if I'm gonna keep at it, that's something that we need to have.
Mhm.
Not necessarily that you can't do good work without it, because a lot of people do, but if you wanna get into that level of higher level work that has good amount of money coming in, that's repeat, that has all that, having that piece of paper matters. It's just like a university degree. You're saying to people, "Hey, these people have come in here and said that what we do is exactly what we say," and the same thing happens in education. That's something that I want to go towards. But in order to get there, I've got to get some processes down. I've got to get an ERP system, Pro Shop. I've got to get some other things lined up
He
before.
knows. He knows.
Sorry. I can't help it. Yeah, I can't help it. Sorry.
Oh, so good.
Um, well, Chris, I like the fact that you're thinking about the how to run the business and learning that side of it. Obviously, you seem like you got
Mm,
the technical side down cold now. But that's an
yeah,
aspect that, many people don't think enough about at the beginning.
the bigger problem, and this is the thing. I read. I haven't read the whole thing, but if you're interested in starting a shop, I would highly suggest you buy the book E-Myth Revisited. I don't know if that's the full name.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, that is the book. That
Yeah,
is the
Paul's
name.
always talking about that book. He loves it.
yeah, yeah.
Love it.
So I've read through a portion of it. I haven't read all of it, but essentially, at some point in time, in order for you to grow to a point where you're stable, you have to let go of the things that you want to do. But you don't necessarily have to get rid of them. You just have to be able to make sure that you can maintain everything else. Because, especially in my case, if my name is on the business, I need to be the one getting the work and making sure the customers are taken care of and that sort of stuff. I can hire people to run the machines. They may not do it the same way that I would want to, but at the end of the day, I'm paying them to produce this product that we're going to sell. And it's up to me to be able to maintain the relationships. And I'm okay with not touching a machine after 5 years from now. I probably still will, but I'm okay with deferring that away to somebody else. So
Well, I like the sentiment and I agree in the concept. The one thing I'd push back on is as the owner, you should be able to decide what you want to focus on. If you love the machining and that just, makes you so happy, you should be able to do that and hire a salesperson that's a really professional, good salesperson. Mike just hired a really professional, great
mm,
salesperson. He doesn't need to do that part. He can stay tied to the relationships, but like since you are the ultimate owner, the freedom is to decide how you want to spend your days in the most rewarding way for you that's
Right.
beneficial to the business.
mhm.
So, but yeah,
And
that
and or where you bring the most value.
Mhm.
yeah,
I mean,
sure, yeah,
if
and
the most
hopefully those
value
align.
for
Hopefully
you in
those
a
align.
stage is to be on the shop floor, that's where you need to be, and then you
Mm.
can hire the other pieces.
Yep. But the
That is fair
concept,
point. That
100%
is a
spot
fair
on,
point.
spot on.
That is
Yeah.
for, and that's that. Like I said, that's something that I have to figure out. Where am I going to go? There is other things too, and this is something to keep in mind as well for anybody out there listening. In the next 5 years, you're going to have a lot of people that are retiring out and decide that they don't have anybody to take over their shop. They don't have anybody to run their business. And if you're in a position where you could go in and kind of take over somebody else's shop and keep it running, not only would that be beneficial because you kind of have a leg up against everybody else because you're stepping into something that's already started. To me, it seems like it's a good thing. But again, instead of building up to the point where like I'm at now, where I'm thinking about hiring that first person, you're getting thrown into the deep end on that. And
Mhm.
I know of at least 3 places in the last, at least in my area, and I would say my area, also in Virginia and Tennessee as well. Guys don't have anybody to take it over. They put it up for sale. I want X amount of money for this, and you got to make sure that it makes sense because you can't just go say, "Oh yeah, this business is worth $1.5 million because they have a building and some old equipment." But alongside that, you have the ability to take over customers as well because if a shop closes and those customers don't have anywhere to go, they're going to look for people to go to.
Yeah. Are you hearing the strategy, Mike? This is a good strategy.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, let's get the train back on the tracks here, guys, because I think we just lost the feed from our buddy. All in all, I mean, you could see he's really thinking through a lot. You can see he's got a good start. It's kind of started more from a passion for trains and a hobby, and then now he's taking on some job shop work, and he's about to hire his first employee, and he's thinking through a lot of things, and it's kind of fun to see where this story will end up. But I mean, what was your
Well, there's
takeaway, guys?
yeah, I mean, there's so many commonalities. I mean, obviously, I started my shop from a passion of
Yep.
cars.
Yep, yep.
right?
Yeah.
And the guys we interviewed this morning, they also were in this human vehicle powered, project and fell in love with machining that way. And he said the same thing. He started with trains and he realized he loves machining maybe even more than the trains. And so when you can get someone sort of hooked, that likes the application of manufacturing, there's a really good chance they're going to fall in love with the process of manufacturing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and his story of getting the loan and
Yeah.
just doing all the things, yeah, it's an awesome story.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
sure he'll have.
it's that classic entrepreneurial, right? You're just following a passion, and you didn't realize you were building a career. He's got a good story there. It'll be really interesting to see where he goes over the next few years. He's got a lot of good ideas.
You know,
Yes, he
when,
does.
um, when he was talking about like, "Oh, and then you just see the machine marks and see how the molds came together on the model trains," and
Yeah,
he was clearly thinking about, like, how all the stuff came to be, not just like most people where they
yeah,
just take it all for granted. It kinda goes back to what you do, Paul, with the ThankAMachinist thing and showing all the machine parts on the airplane and stuff, but you see it all the time
Mhm,
with people doing that with planes and stuff, I think mostly because you're example, but not so much with the train side of it. And you're it's always like, "Oh, we have an awareness gap, and we gotta get people aware of it," and someone's gotta keep doing what you guys are doing. We're pointing it back to, "Hey, you know how this got here? Have you ever seen that process?" And so
mhm,
it's cool to
mhm.
see how just something like that can create an entrepreneur in this space.
yeah.
Absolutely.
You've got, I mean, kind of different story, but Matt Lindsay with Autopilot, right? He wanted to go check out, see how fly reels were made, and then
Mhm.
bought a machine shop to make
Yep,
fly
Yeah.
reels, right? I mean,
yep. Yeah.
it's that same, just something triggered me to go learn about this, and you realize how cool it is.
We just need to get it in front of more people, which is, I guess, what we're trying to do every day here.
Mhm.
Yep.
So, yeah, let's wrap it up. So if you wanna reach out to Chris, huffmanmachining.com is his website, and Chris at huffmanmachining.com is his email address. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you, especially if you wanna talk trains or machining.
I'm sure there's a couple train aficionados in the audience who are
Oh,
yeah.
undoubtedly.
For
More than a
sure.
few.
Well, alright, guys. If you're not making chips,
You're not making money.
Bam.
bam.